there's less stuff while we're increasing the population. So more people and less stuff. That means generally you're going to have a lower living standard across the board. That doesn't mean there won't be some super rich that are having better lifestyle, but on aggregate, on average, everyone's lifestyle is going to go down. Well, you had me on not that long ago, and if I recall correctly, I've been saying, about 2 months ago, I called gold had basically peaked for a while, and that I saw it going sideways through the summer and possibly till the end of the year. And so far, that's been proven right. I still see it that way. And of course, people will say, well, wait a minute, this war thing in the Middle East, and the Ukraine thing kind of in the background now with what's going on with Israel and Iran. And there's lots of reasons to think that the precious metal should move. Oil should be moving like crazy, which it has moved up, but it also sold off very recently. Point being is that these markets are more or less managed, believe it or not. They don't move on things that you would expect them to. And when you see, this massive back and forth in the Middle East, and you would think, that's good for a $50 price increase in gold, minimum, maybe 100.
Right.
And there's nothing incorrect with that thinking. It's just I've been around these markets, as you well know, over 4 decades, and I've seen this happen time and time again, where the expectations are not met, and then you've got to ask why. And that goes into you got to put a hat on and all that stuff, which I have one here, but I'm not sure I'll put it on yet. So again, I think we're seeing one market out of the 4 precious metals is moving pretty much on physical demand, and that's platinum. Platinum's at something like, 10-year high or greater, and it made another nominal high today. And I think it's some of the analysts that I trust that are not, just commentators looking for $1,500 platinum by the end of this year, Ivan, which
Wow.
that's a 50% move in 1 year. That's a pretty big move for any market, a stock, especially a commodity. So will it or won't it? I don't know, but we're pushing toward 1,400 as we speak. So I'm still bullish on it, but maybe a little bit late to get in it. I was sitting there buying it under 1,000, a little over 1,000, averaging in, and just thinking, darn, is this market ever going to move? And but I felt the downside was almost zero, because the true cost of platinum is about 1,200. I know you want to talk about silver, but let me go on in a couple minutes longer. So if I'm buying it at 1,000 and mine's at 1,200, I don't have much downside.
No.
And then finally, it's taken off. And really looking back at the chart, I really timed it pretty darn well, because, maybe a year hold in a market, you look at the last 15 years, you wouldn't want to hold it that long. I'll put it that way. Anyway, back to you.
What do you think makes gold and silver, such an enduring store of value throughout history, David?
Well, I really think that it has a lot to do with the part of the market that we don't talk about a lot, although I do, and you and I have had these conversations privately. But it's the idea that freedom and honest money basically go hand in hand. I mean, the first casualty of a rigged monetary system is that you lose trust. In a genuinely free society, individuals make choices based on trust, and that trust is the value of their labor and their savings and their investments, and it will hold steady over time. And if it doesn't, in a rigged monetary system, it breaks that trust. And when more and more people realize that, more and more people become something they can trust. Well, gold and silver have been trusted for, you can pick your number, 2,500 years. Some say 5,000. I mean, certainly there's more trust in these pieces of metal than there has been in an edict by mankind, no matter what the empire ruling at the time is. And many of the empires use precious metals. And then the Roman Empire. And then, of course, they started to debase the currency. They would take in all the silver and then put in gross metal with it and remint it and pretend it had the same value as the original. Of course, it didn't.
Right.
So a rigged monetary system breaks that whole trust paradigm. And when central banks manipulate interest rates and take currency and quietly devalue it over time until it gets to the point where most people don't, or do rather, do recognize it, that, oh my goodness, groceries are costing me more every time I go. And that erosion affects everything: savings account, medical bills, housing prices. It reaches into how people actually live. So I think that's something that, you and I have taught for a long time. Many of us do more than just extol the virtues of having real money. There is that aspect to it that's all important, and that is we need to have a system where we can trust each other. Let's just go to the war for a minute, and I really don't want to talk about it much. It's your show. I'll answer any question you give me. But you sign a treaty, and you trust the other party to adhere to it. And if they don't, then that trust is broken.
Right.
And once you, and I have a more or less theory. Robert Prechter has written a couple of books on socioeconomics, and he's the only one I know of. I'm sure there's probably others that have really documented that there's a direct correlation between the degradation of the money, the devaluation of a currency, and the degradation of society at large. So the worse the money system gets debased, the worse the moral structure of the society. That's what I would say, probably in a couple sentences, the most important thing that we really should bear in mind.
What's not looking at precious metals, but just looking, whether it's geopolitically or just even in the markets, what's concerning you right now, David? Is it bonds? Is it interest rates being too high for too long? What's your biggest concern right now that you're looking at?
Well, in a market alone, I'd say the bond market, that's always been my biggest concern. But I think it's bigger than that in a way because it's the economy. I mean, the financial markets are markets, but the economy is what you and I do to survive or to have a good life. And that's, shelter, transportation, communication, what we get to eat, what choices we have. And the whole economy on a global basis is basically contracting, which means there's less stuff while we're increasing the population. So more people and less stuff. That means generally you're going to have a lower living standard across the board. That doesn't mean there won't be some super rich that are having better lifestyle, but on aggregate, on average, everyone's lifestyle is going to go down.
Right.
And then you're going to uh, get in a situation where you start to look more and more at what the true values are. In other words, getting, let's say, not being able to eat the diet you want because you can't afford it, or getting a secondhand car that really needs to be sold off and purchase a new one, but you can't make the payment, or that type of thing. So, if that's the biggest thing is a contraction in the economy. And of course, AI is going to save us. All you have to do is use AI for everything. And